From the Maxim Institute, Maryanne Spurdle. Maryanne, kia ora.
Good morning, Andrew.
Now, we've kind of had this psychosocial experiment over the last few decades where every generation we totally change the education policy. And, oh no, we don't do it this way. This is proven to have absolutely terrible outcomes for the next generation. And then we change it to something else, whether that be the type of curriculum that we teach, or even the structure of the classrooms that we have. It seems to be a bit of a revolving door when it comes to educational policy.
Yeah, there's kind of a pendulum that swings.
Yeah.
And it's one of those areas where people are very keen to hear the next bright idea, the silver bullet that's going to make everything better.
Yeah.
And it kind of, the silver bullet sometimes is returning to things that are tried and true, because while we know that they worked,
Yeah.
they could work better perhaps, but they worked. And then you've got the pendulum pushing the other way where people are going, oh no, we're so much more advanced. We've got new ideas. And so you've got open plan classrooms,
Yep.
for instance, because somebody decided it would be a great idea to put way more kids in a room
Yep.
and help them focus and learn.
Mm-hmm.
And 15 years later, the voices who were saying, maybe that doesn't work well, have finally won. And they're going, oh no, that doesn't work well. And so the interesting thing about education as well, when you've got public education, is it's not just people who are educators making decisions.
Yep.
You've got a government ministry, and you've got MPs getting into the mix, and you've got people who know nothing about education who are moving dials.
Yep.
One of the changes that I think is good and that will help with who's pushing pendulums which way is this government has decided that the property management arm of the Ministry of Education should actually be a crown entity that's separate from the Ministry of Education,
Okay.
which will depoliticize it somewhat, because you don't have a Minister of Education who's looking for votes, signing off on things that there's actually no money for.
Yeah.
So the way that property is being managed, at least, will be hopefully a little more strategically managed, and there should be more classrooms.
I mean, that's the shame for the photo opportunities, of course, because as you say, it's a
Yeah.
great lolly scramble, isn't it? Hey, we're going to
Yes.
build you a new hall or a new gymnasium for your school, and all the children clap and cheer, and that ends up on the 6 o'clock news. When it comes to actual curriculum, though, there's been a lot of talk about back to basics. NCEA sort of does that with basic standards for numeracy and literacy. But it also seems that more pupils than ever are falling through the cracks and are not getting qualifications in some of these basic areas.
Yeah, and I've never taught NCEA or studied in it, so this is all secondhand for me. But the overwhelming feeling about it is that it can work very well, generally for the students who are going to do well anyway.
Yeah.
And even for them, I had a colleague saying that when he was going through, there were two different types of music NCA that you could get.
Mm-hmm.
And you could actually do almost all of your credits in just these two areas of music and learn almost nothing about anything else. So it allows you to specialize in some ways, but it also allows you to pick and choose and have some actual significant gaps in there.
Yeah.
So there's heaps of space to not accomplish what a secondary education should help you accomplish. And it actually, you can get through to NCEA level 3
Yeah.
and then discover you don't have some prerequisites for university.
Yeah, exactly. And
It's just not integrated well.
And hey, I remember back at school, okay, here's the serious subjects that I'm doing, but I'm going to put a few goof off sort of subjects in there as well, because I didn't want to work that hard. Maybe it's still the case now. With that though, I mean, how is that delivering for our students when they come out of the secondary school? They're looking for tertiary education placements. Do they have the basic educational requirements that they need to get a qualification or to succeed in the industry of their choice?
Well, and then you get the question of what is the tertiary education system providing them, and is it preparing them for work? It's almost like you have to work backwards and go, does any of this prepare you for the next stage well? So no, it doesn't integrate well with university as well as it could. Doesn't even integrate well within itself. And then the university system, there was a report out by the New Zealand Initiative a few months back about trades routes,
Yep.
comparing our education system to Germany.
Okay.
So the ideal for many years has been if you do well at school, you go to university, that's your best shot to get a good job.
Yeah.
However, you look at Germany, half of school leavers are going into trades training. 6% of school leavers are going into trades training here, and then some into their 20s and sometimes later, but I think the average age is 28 years here in trades. Well, we put a report out about AI and the future of work a few months back, and it found that those who are most exposed right now, not even 5 years down the road, most exposed to having their job picked up by an AI substitute, 27% of postgraduate holders are at risk of that right now. If you've only got a secondary school education, 12%.
Wow.
So we're moving into an era where the higher your degree level is, the more probable it is that you're actually going to find it hard to get work if you're a recent grad or, stay in your line of work if you're in your career.
Part of the challenge of this for policymakers, though, I imagine, is, hey, as you say, let's work backwards on this. Let's do a big picture thinking. But then things like AI are moving so fast that by the time you've developed the policy, it's already irrelevant because the future is changing literally as we speak. Something else I wanted to get your feedback on. One size doesn't fit all when it comes to education. And maybe this is part of the whole pendulum thing, that there are groups within society that thrive in this type of education model, and perhaps we just go for a numbers game here. Let's get as many people as possible through the education system with some level of understanding. But in that type of system where there isn't the flexibility to go, but yeah, there are people who don't function well in that environment. There are people that have special needs. We're losing some people along the way, and I don't think that's an acceptable consequence.
No, and that's something else that we reported on is just the need for better funding for educational choices, because one size doesn't fit all.
Yeah.
And the lowest common denominator at the moment isn't even geared well for our current situation with AI, let alone what's probably going to come down the road. I think one of the helpful things in planning is to allow people, so in industries, especially with trades, and it's sort of moving that way with this government, but there have been criticisms that the industries aren't being given a big enough voice in what training involves and what accreditation involves. But that's a real key thing.
Yep.
So when you've got trades, go, okay, who are the people working in those areas? They should be determining what's needed, and they should be setting the agenda, not bureaucrats and policymakers, or even academics.
Yep.
This is one of the problems with education and the training of teachers. From the 1990s, it moved from you had teachers' colleges where teachers' training was taught by teachers who specialized in teaching teachers.
Yep.
And there was a lot more classroom time because it's a very practical, you're managing little people. And since then, it got sucked into the university space, became more of an academic discipline. And, surprise, surprise, it's become less practical.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, there's an old adage which says those that can do, those that can't teach, which I think is desperately unfair. But perhaps we could add to that, and those that can't teach end up working for the Ministry of Education. but we might just.
Well, they get paid more. They probably can teach, but it's so tempting.
But yeah, I mean, who's got time for that? A open plan classroom with 90 screaming children. I can see why they're opting out of that particular plan. Hey, Maryanne, thank you so much for this important conversation. I think honestly, for the sake of our children and, I mean, the consequences of this as we flip-flop from one policy to another, kids are being caught in the middle of changing strategies here. But appreciate your wisdom and insight. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Andrew. See you later.
Hey, thanks very much for joining us in the Rhema studio. Thanks very much for watching the interview. It's kind of nice to have an audience, actually. And if you did like what you watched, then do give us a like, do give us the thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more interviews like that one, or perhaps even better, subscribe and those interviews will come straight to you. Don't forget to turn on your notifications, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.